You stopped apologizing for living alone. It happened quietly. One day, someone asked why you were still single, and instead of explaining or defending, you just shrugged. Because the truth is you are not waiting for someone. You are not between relationships. You chose this, and the longer it lasts, the less you can imagine going back by the end. None of this, you will know exactly why men who live alone long enough stop seeing it as temporary and start seeing it as the point. This is not about bitterness. It is not about giving up. It is about something that happens after. A man spends enough time alone that the noise clears, and he realizes how much energy he was spending on things that did not matter. The thermostat stays where he sets it. The ugly chair he loves stays in the living room. Dinner is cereal, if he wants it to be cereal. No one asks him to explain. No one needs him to justify. The house runs on his logic and his logic alone. Here is what actually happens. When you live with someone, your brain runs two programs at once. One program is your own preferences, your own rhythm, your own internal state. The second program is a constant low-level monitoring system watching the other person. What do they need right now? What mood are they in? What will this decision cost in terms of tension or negotiation? That second program runs all day. It is not dramatic. It is not a crisis. It is just always on. And it drains a specific type of energy that you do not notice until it is gone. When you live alone long enough, that second program shuts off. Not because you stopped caring about people, because there is no one to monitor, your brain stops splitting its attention. Mornings become simple. You drink coffee in silence. You read if you want to read. You sit if you want to sit. There is no conversation you have to generate, no mood you have to assess before you speak. The quiet stops feeling empty and starts feeling like the most valuable thing you own. You are not lonely. You were more lonely in a house with someone else. Because loneliness is not about being alone. It is about not being able to hear yourself. The shift happens in stages. At first, living alone feels like a temporary state. You are between things. You are figuring it out. You still think in terms of what you will do when you meet someone. Then the stages start. Stage 1 is relief. The arguments stop. The tension stops. Your baseline stress drops and stays down. You sleep better. You wake up without that low hum of dread about what mood the day will start in. Stage 2 is efficiency. The house works, chores get done once, and stay done. There is no one else's clutter, no one else's delay, no one else's different definition of clean. You become faster, smoother. The friction is gone. Stage 3 is when it flips. You stop thinking about what you will do when you meet someone and start thinking about what you would lose if you did. Your calendar is yours. Your weekends are yours. You do not go to events you do not want to attend. You do not smile through dinners with people you do not like. You do not negotiate about in-laws or holidays or visits. The energy you used to spend on performative agreement comes back, and you realize how much of your life was performance. Stage 4 is sovereignty. Every object in the house is where you want it. The garage is a mess because you are in the middle of a project and no one is coming over to judge it. The furniture fits your body. The lighting fits your eyes. The temperature fits your skin. You have built an environment that is calibrated to you with the precision of a cockpit. Walking into your own house feels like putting on clothes that fit. And the idea of letting someone else adjust any of it starts to feel like vandalism. Stage 5 is identity coherence. You stop rotating through versions of yourself. At work, you are one person. With friends, you are another. In a relationship, you are a third. But alone, you are just one thing all the way through the day. You do not shift tone. You do not suppress reactions. You do not edit your thoughts before you speak them out loud to yourself. You become continuous, and that continuity is so rare and so stable that you start to protect it. The mechanism is this. The brain is not wired to live in constant compromise. Compromise is useful. Compromise is necessary in short bursts, but the modern version of shared living is not short bursts. It is a permanent state of low-level negotiation over everything from what to eat to what temperature the room should be to when to go to bed. Every one of those negotiations is small. None of them feel like a crisis. But they add up. And the total cost is that you never fully relax. You are always slightly braced, always slightly performing, always slightly managing. When that ends, your nervous system recalibrates. The baseline drops. You stop bracing. And after enough time in that lower state, going back starts to feel like putting. Weight back on after you finally took it off. You know exactly how heavy it was. You remember what it felt like to carry it. And you do not want it back. This is not a failure. This is not emotional damage. This is a rational economic decision. The brain runs on return on investment. Relationships cost energy. They cost attention. They cost compromise and coordination and emotional labor. In exchange, they provide connection and support and companionship. For a man in his 20s or 30s, that trade often makes sense. The benefits outweigh the costs. But as a man gets older, two things change. One, he gets better at being alone. The skills improve. The house runs better. The systems work. Two, the perceived cost of relationships goes up because he now knows exactly what he will lose. He has tasted uninterrupted sleep. He has tasted a quiet morning. He has tasted a house that works on one logic instead of two. And the idea of giving that up means the relationship has to offer something huge, something bigger than peace. And peace is very, very hard to beat. This is why men who live alone long enough do not go back. It is not bitterness. It is not fear. It is that the bar for entry becomes impossible. A new partner would have to provide more peace than his current solitude. She would have to create less friction than a house with no friction. She would have to cost less energy than a life that costs almost no energy. And she would have to do all of that while he is fully aware of exactly what he is giving up. The cost is no longer invisible. He has lived without it long enough to price it. The longer this lasts, the more it reinforces itself. Year 1, he is adjusting. Year 2, he is settling in. Year 3, the systems are built. Year 5, the systems are automatic. Year 10, going back would mean dismantling a life that works perfectly and rebuilding it around someone else's needs. And for what? Companionship, he no longer misses. Passion, he no longer needs. The validation of not being alone, when being alone stopped feeling like something that needed validation. The reframe is this: solitude is not the waiting room. Solitude is not what you do until something better comes along. For men who have lived it long enough, solitude is the final form. It is not a compromise. It is not a fallback. It is the thing they built on purpose and defended on purpose because it works better than anything else they tried. The guilt is gone. The apology is gone. The idea that they owe someone an explanation is gone. They are not alone because no one wanted them. They are alone because they wanted this. So why do older men choose to live alone and never want to go back? Because the brain stops running a second monitoring program. The cost of compromise becomes visible, and the peace of solitude becomes more valuable than anything a relationship can offer. They do not go back because going back would mean losing something they spent years building, and they finally know what it is worth.